United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we're grateful for this evening that we have together to discuss matters of importance to the city of Fruit Heights in which we live. We're grateful for good neighbors and good people that we get to interact with. We'd ask that would help us to do what's best for the majority of those that live here in town, and to think about those that whose views might not be represented here this day. Help us to do our best to make the right decisions. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. I'm down.
I'm down as well.
I'm down and
hello.
Can you hear me? You can? Can you hear me?
Commissioner Brando.
Here. Am I on?
Okay.
Commissioner Carter.
Here.
Commissioner Heidi Murdoch.
Here.
Commissioner Chairman Mayor, oh my gosh.
Here.
Chairman Kevin Polson. And then Councilmember Gary Anderson.
So I just want to, this meeting will end right at 8 o'clock tonight. We're not going to go a minute past. If we don't get to something and we don't get there, that's fine. We're done at 8 o'clock. Just heads up. So.
Alrighty. I suppose we do have public here, so I guess we will open with the public comments. If you have any thoughts, you can share for 3 minutes at a time. Please.
Conditional use permit, I don't really have comment about that. I mean, the swimming pool ordinance, in my point of view, I think it would be fine to have it 8 foot from the property line. I think that's appropriate and in line with other cities around us. On the municipal code, Title 10, R16, I will repeat myself a little bit just for the commissioners who weren't here last week when I made comments, to remind this body that this body specifically requested a transitional zone, and based on the requests for that type of traditional zone for a more affordable zone, not necessarily that meets any certain criteria, but would be more affordable. I believe that our city planner has helped us come up with something that meets that, and I'm in favor of the code as it is represented. And then as far as the chicken ordinance goes, one thing that I didn't comment on is I would really like to see language in the chicken ordinance that reflects the sale of eggs for non-producers, whether we simply defer to the state code that people who sell eggs in our city that are non-producers should follow that same code, some sort of language that addresses that, just because there was unease in the community about, I think the original proposal said no selling of eggs, and so I think it'd just be nice to have that clarified. Thank you, appreciate the service of all of you, and thanks for your time. Oh, my name is Dale Kunkel, 1624 Old Way.
Thank you, Dale.
I'm Susan Darker, and I live at 640 Project Road. And of course, I'm here about the arsenic. I would like to see a little bit more input with the public. I know that we had a meeting on the arsenic, but we haven't had an in-depth meeting. I want to make sure that everything is covered and it's not just thrown out there and this is it. I just would like to have everyone look at it and say, yeah, I do want the buildings not to be higher than 30. Yeah, I do want them to be this way and that way.
All right, we'll close the public comment section and we'll proceed. I think we just are going straight to our planning commission business. We have the 5 items that were discussed in our last meeting. We'll, I guess, do we need to rehash any of the staff instruction, or we just go ahead and discuss and vote?
Well, however you'd like, if you want us to go over it just a little bit, because Clark wasn't here.
I know me and Justin, we've gone over it. I think we kind of have our thoughts, but as you guys request, would you guys like to kind of go over some of the?
I went back and listened to, didn't get all the recording, but I listened to a lot of that. I didn't, personally, I don't see a lot of issues on that conditional use. You two were here, did you have any issues?
It seemed pretty straightforward to me. I think it's a, you know, they're going to have that redundant water facility. It's not going to cause much of an issue, I don't think. I think it's a good solution.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's only beneficial to the city. I think the design's fine. If it was in my neighborhood, I wouldn't, have any issue with it.
Yeah, it's not gonna create traffic. They've got a great landscape design.
My only concern was any potential for like an attractive nuisance for kids in the area, but it's going to be locked pretty down tight. They're going to have a gate that's locked. The door is going to be locked unless someone's servicing and then someone will be on premises. So yeah, it seems like a good way forward for me.
Well, we're talking about the R16 in general, or we
No,
talking?
so this is the conditional use permit. What's the location on that?
It's Green Road in Orchard.
And that's for a water, essentially a water facility. That's what-
Well, they've done a well there, Weaver Basin. They'll use for water redundancy, 2 buildings, well house, and then a smaller, fluoridation building.
Sure.
It's up on the.
No, I read that. I went through that. I thought that was pretty straightforward, well presented, and they've done it hundreds of times.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, is this a recommendation or is this a approval? Is this?
Yeah, conditional uses, this is the final body, so this is an approval.
Okay.
On any conditional use.
Oh, good point.
So unless there's more thought for discussion on that, I'll entertain a motion.
I was definitely in favor of that. I have a motion to approve the conditional use submitted by Weaver Basin.
Any second?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. Okay. So that's item number 1 out of the way. Item number 2, that's the update to the swimming pool ordinance. And there hasn't been any change to that since last time. It's just the 8 feet, right? So again, that was another one where the last time we ran into this in October 22, I think we had presented it even short or smaller amount. I think we had like 5 feet. Do you remember, Brian? And then I think it came before the city council and they
The original
increased
submission?
it. The one when it came before us, I think we said we were good with the 5 feet to the interior property line. And then I think it came back to the city council. They brought it up to 10, and now the request is to bring it down to 8. So I'm comfortable with it because I was already a smaller distance.
I was indifferent on the pool ordinance, and I was fine with whatever staff recommended.
Any other questions, thoughts, concerns before we
I think it aligns with other cities in our area. A lot of them are even closer. So
Yeah.
I don't have any problem with it.
talk? Any thoughts?
I didn't have
Questions?
any concerns with that.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion then.
I'll motion we approve. Change to the single ordinance.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None. Okay, we'll go ahead. Sorry? Yeah, Clark moved. Oh, wait, sorry, I didn't get a second. Let's try that again. Let's get a second.
I can second that.
All right, we will vote again. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. Okay, thanks for catching that. I did not catch that. Okay, we'll move on to the new zone R16. So our public comments touched on that one.
The public works standard?
Yeah, I have that as the fourth one.
Oh, okay. That's
Unless I haven't mixed up. So the R16, I think that was, when we had the public hearing, that was what most people were here for, that there were some different thoughts. I'm trying to get my notes pulled up here, but maybe Justin will do that.
Let me make a couple of comments. And I think it's worth rehearsing this a little bit for the guys that weren't here, this is an attempt to come up with this R16 zone, which we were directed to do as staff by the city council. This has two primary parts to it. One, you can build single-family homes on a 6,000 square foot lot. There's also an element that would allow you to build multifamily dwellings in the R6. Up to a maximum of 4 units to be attached to one another with common walls. But the overall dwelling density cannot exceed 6 units to the acre. So the question came up last time, and I tried to clarify that to some extent. Could you put 4 units on a 6,000 square foot lot? No. You would have to have 24,000 square feet to put 4 units on. 4 times 6. I rewrote that a little bit, breaking up the area and frontage regulations into kind of 2 parts. One talks about single-family dwelling, the other one's multi-family dwelling. I don't know if that clarifies that for you guys a little bit better, but I tried to twist this around and make this more clear without trying to describe the whole world. But
You did the Tetris repositioning, right? It was perfect.
Yes. And so this is supposed to be a transitional zone. It appears to some extent like this has been built for one piece of property. Where else in the city will this be used? I don't know. I don't know, but it could be.
Well, I even think there's, in my neighborhood over near the Somerset condos, that empty lot that hasn't been developed yet, I think that'd be perfect for something like this, because you have the R18, you have the condos, and that would be kind of a transitionary. I think there are places, there's opportunities for that, for sure.
Well, there's no zone you can build a duplex on right now. And so I personally think it's kind of been a long time coming for something like this.
Yeah.
Although I would have loved to see like the lot size per unit. Like if it's 2 households, then you need a minimum. You know what I mean? Like some of the cities have that, but I think we kind of get it.
So you could do a duplex in this zone.
Right.
You could take an existing 1/4 acre lot on some of the zone, let's just say it's zoned RS12, and let's just say it's 12,000 square feet. You could take that 12,000 square feet, and if it was rezoned R16, you could split that into 2 lots, and those 2 lots could be attached to each other. You know, so you split it right down the middle, the lot line is split right down the middle, and you've got 2 units that are attached to each other like a duplex, but they're still sitting on separate lots.
Well, what if I want a duplex on 1 lot?
You could do that, I think, right, with this?
You could.
That's where it has that minimum lot size for detached, single family shall be on the
So
6,000.
you can do the same thing where it sits on 1 lot, and it's still 2 units attached to each other, and the same owner owns both units.
Sure.
So this could go either way.
Yeah, I think the only difference was if you split it into 2, you'd have to have 60 a minimum of 60 feet per unit. If you did 2 on 1, you could have 70 feet if you wanted, right?
Yeah.
Theoretically.
Yes. And one other thing I'll make clear is that this zone will not accommodate internal accessory dwelling units. If you remember back when we passed our ordinance, anything R18 or smaller was not eligible for IADUs. So I just want to make that clear that it doesn't specifically say that in here, but that's just, that's just known because of the way the ordinance was written. So when you look at this, and let's say you take a quarter-acre lot and you split it into 2, you're technically not splitting it into 4. Because they would not be eligible for an IADU.
And the IADU,
It's 10,000 square feet or larger.
but that's specified
In the
somewhere
IADU
else.
ordinance.
Yeah,
It
okay.
says that in the IADU ordinance.
Okay.
But I thought that, I was gonna mention that last time and I forgot. I thought, I better just let these guys know just so that they can spin that around in their heads, that this is not eligible for that.
That's probably a good idea to talk about that. When you get to that point, parking becomes an issue,
These lots are small.
because these are really small.
They are small, and I even considered that it's possible that the area that talks about under section E of yard regulations, that maybe those regulations for accessory buildings may be a little too strict to even handle a shed on a 6,000-foot lot. You're not gonna have a whole lot of room here
For sure.
to do much. And I don't know, but that's something that if we ran into a problem, we could modify that.
Yeah.
You might have room for a little tiny something in the backyard, but it's not gonna be very substantial.
So just being mindful, sorry, Clark, just being mindful to not rush through something. But Jeff, your point of the multifamily dwellings, units per acre, it's 6 units per acre, which is, if you divide that by square footage, it's 7,200 square feet per acre. So if you put a duplex on one lot, you multiply that by 2, and you have to have a 14,500 square foot lot. If someone ever puts a fourplex on a lot, 29,000 square foot lot, divided by an acre, you have to have a, 0.66 or 2/3 of an acre. If someone does a fourplex in this R16 zone, which I think is reasonable. I don't know if, like you said, I don't know if we'll see it, but for the purposes of this zone, I think that's reasonable.
And that's why I put that caveat in there under multifamily dwellings number 2, is that I added the language 6 units per gross acre, and then put the public streets and rights of way shall not be included in the gross acreage. So if you had a situation where you had, let's just say you had 10 acres and you were doing this, and you've got to punch a public street into that comes out of that gross acreage. You got to subtract that out of that before you calculate your density. And that's typically, on average, about 30%.
Sure.
So you would take 30% out of the property before you did your calc. Anything that's publicly owned is not included in that calculation.
For sure, before you get your net,
Yeah.
which I'm more thinking of the one-offs, if there's one-offs on,
You're one that just has a driveway.
yeah,
That's what you're looking at.
yeah, that would be appropriate for this
Yeah.
rezone, which I can't think of too many, because there's a few duplexes on the north end of town, maybe something next to a commercial, but there's not too many. But still, I think it's a step in the right direction, just because there hasn't been anything that's in between R18 and
There
The
was a
multifamily.
number, there was a number of comments at the public hearing about should the city go in and identify areas in the city where this zone could be used? And, I mean, that's certainly not a bad idea. That's gonna take a while.
That'd be a lot of work.
Because you have to vet all that, you have to modify the general plan. That's just not something that you're gonna snap your fingers and do overnight. In fact, it would probably take a significant amount of discussion to get to a resolution on that. I'm not opposed to it, I'm just saying it's not quick.
If we have this new zone, it makes sense to me that we would want to update the master plan to match, just so that there's some direction, right? If not, how are we gonna decide where it's to be used?
Well, for one thing, I do think, I like that idea, identifying currently where there might be opportunities, but I think we also, as part of that, just need to, paint with broad strokes, saying, these are the types of situation in a redevelopment that it might make sense. Because we're not gonna be able to identify off the top of our head, oh, this place is more ripe for redevelopment than this place. But we can kind of, because those opportunities, that's the next step of Fruit Heights growth is redevelopment, because we're almost fully developed out on developable land that has not yet been turned to a residential type system. But I think that's just a forward thinking of, eventually someone's going to come to us with an R112 or RS12 or something saying, I want to do this. And we'll at least have a guiding framework, someone saying it should be located near these sorts of things, or these sorts of streets, or these sorts of other zones. And again, with the idea being that the goal will be transitional. So if it's more likely to be located near maybe a commercial or a R3 or something like that.
And I just want to remind, I want to remind the commission that the controlling factor in this is your ability to rezone the property. If you run into a situation that you're not comfortable with, you just don't have to rezone the property.
Right.
And because you've rezoned some property somewhere in the city, doesn't put you under some obligation to do it twice or 3 times.
Yeah.
So your ability to control where this goes lies in whether or not you rezone the property.
Right.
I think my thoughts on that, I would prefer, as a citizen, I would prefer to know what the plan was that the city has, rather than just, depending upon who's sitting up here any given year, the plan changes. And so I just think it would be helpful as a resident to know.
And I think what Jeff is saying is that's probably that's not a decision we make overnight.
Agreed.
We probably all look at the criteria and come maybe have a board meeting where we draw up some rough ideas on what we think, and then sit on them for a month and come back and see how they feel, and then come to the public.
Yep. We don't even have to, right, approve this tonight. It can be just, we feel good about it, but there's some other things we want to do as well with it.
I really like the idea that we could have twin homes. I do think there are areas that will be developed in the remaining land we have where that kind of thing would work. The governor is really pushing that we have affordable housing, and the 0 lot line does allow people to have somewhat of a yard, even though it's small. They'll have a yard and a home that they can own. So I really like that. I stumble a little bit on having fourplexes on these, but I just want to know what everybody else's opinion on that.
I think the benefit of this is it feels less scary to the public than an R3. I think the bigger concern felt like with the R3 is that there's so much variability within it. So this gives honestly kind of a psychological stepping, saying, hey, it's not as bad as you think. We can control it within these parameters, and I think this does a good job of providing that, providing what we don't have is that transitional space. I'm in favor of it. We talked through a lot last time about some of the different, dimensions that are included in the zone. I'm ready personally to approve it. I think that's what we were kind of talking about in our March meeting or April, whenever it was, is having this transition zone. And you brought some great comments and even your own draft. And I think this incorporates a lot of good things from that and from kind of neighboring R16 equivalent zones. And so I feel pretty good about it. And I think my concerns have been resolved by some of the reworking the language so that it's less ambiguous. It kind of clarifies where we're going with it.
The
Clark, let me explain to you kind of where I came up with this four attached units, just for perspective. There's nothing saying that you have to have 4 attached units, but in the world of building, when you attach units, the building, there's some cost savings. The building becomes cheaper. You can hopefully make things more affordable, pass hopefully some of those savings along to the end buyer. When you only attach 2 buildings, there's not a big savings. When you get up to 4 or more, you've really started to amass some economies of scale. And it's just kind of standard that you see projects of this size, on these sizes lots, between 2 and 4. When you start to go over 4, now you're really getting into more higher density situation. This size of lot between 5 and 7,000 square feet, this is just kind of what you would see in the marketplace, up to 4 units. They could have 2 units attached, they could have 3 units attached, but it just feels like the right thing to have for given the size of the lots and property. So that's really all that went into that, is having that economy of scale to maybe build a little bit more affordability into the product.
So like you said, that still requires a 24,000 square foot lot.
Yes. You can't put 4 units on a 6,000 square foot lot.
Yeah.
No
That's
tiny
not-
homes?
That would be bad.
Like, for that, you'd have to have that R3 zone, which, correction to my earlier statement, R3 does allow duplexes. R3
Yes.
does still need to be updated just because it
Yes.
references the old map.
And I've got some updates to that I'd like to bring back to the planning commission right away, so, because I've been working on that. It does need updated.
Oh, nice, okay. I like it, I think it's a good, transition. I don't think it's built specifically for the, what is it, 650 West? Is that 650 North? I don't think it's built specifically for that, but it's a catalyst. I mean, that development is a catalyst that what brought it on. So it's something that is, I mean, it's a natural progression of what our city's going through. But I like it. I think
it will eliminate some heartburn because people look at the R3 and they see the worst.
Right.
yeah, 25 units per acre.
I'm not opposed. I just think it's important that we do, whether, it's probably best just update the master plan, and I realize that won't happen overnight. That'll be a progress, but just give some direction so that as a planning commission, we don't have to every time go, well, do we like this one or not? It's just, it gives some guidelines to work off of.
With that, any other thoughts, questions, feedback before we Otherwise, I'm open to entertaining a motion on this issue.
I'd like to motion for the recommendation of approval for the R16, creation of the new R16 zone.
Any second?
I can second that.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any, I already got my second. Any opposed? None. Okay. You know, actually, we're wrapped up there, but we had talked a little bit about just having more regularity of hitting the general plan. I'd like to maybe next meeting to talk about what regularity is reasonable for us to revisit that. Because I do think, you know, Justin raises a good point, like the sooner we can kind of give some more direction in the public, that will ease, I think, some anxieties about all of our potential multifamily opportunities.
And I think, Kevin, that's a good point. At our next meeting, I think we ought to review the 5 items that we said in our general plan that we were going to embark on
Right.
for more affordable standards, because we've got an August 1st deadline of what have you done over the last year?
We also got to hit that, is it the external ADU that we've been sitting on the back burner for about a year?
Yeah.
That'd be another one in the near term. I'd love to revisit that. Okay, sorry, I got sidetracked from. We're making good time. We've got 24 minutes here, or 26 minutes. Okay, let's go on. The periodical update, the public works standard. I think I had identified like 1 or 2 typos. Other than that, like it was all the way above my pay grade. Some engineer or genius put that together beyond my comprehension. So I didn't have too much to go on that one otherwise.
Just know that Jones and Associates put their engineering caps on and wrote most of these changes to that. And a lot of it was based on updates to state laws, some federal requirements, some of their experience in working with other cities and what has worked and not worked. So I feel like that was a really good comprehensive review of our public works standards. Those are the kinds of things that are always kind of need modification on a micro level. And so this was a good update for that stuff, don't you think, Darren?
Yeah, some standards for AWWA standards for public works and for asphalt mixes, we're using recycled asphalt and all that kind of stuff, and we watched working the best and lasting. So all those kind of updates, all the new ADA accessible, you know, handicap ramps and those kind of things.
Right.
All the new standards on those are now in our standards. LID with stormwater, which we were required to from our stormwater audit. Those are all in there. So yeah, there was a lot of change, but not a lot of change. I mean, we're still just different on the mix maybe for the asphalt, different on the mix for the concrete. Those kind of changes, but still the same, you know, a 6 inches thick or those kind of things. It's just a new standard from all the engineering studies and stuff like that. We changed in there.
Just a general comment, this federal regulation, this idea that we shouldn't send things downstream, we should retain it on site and deal with it on site, does not flies directly in the face of saving the Great Salt Lake. The Great Salt Lake needs water to move downstream, to go into the lake. And so the state of Utah is in a unique situation in that what they need to happen is not what the feds are saying it should happen. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some modifications to some of these things just based on that need.
The climate is different on the East Coast. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that I just caught a couple of those typos. Were you guys able to flag that for Jones or
Yes.
anything? Okay, so, yeah. So other than that, I'd be ready to just vote that through, and unless somebody else wants to talk, we can go through and vote on that one.
Yeah, I'm fine. Are we ready?
Yeah, I'd entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the updates to the to the public works standards as presented to us.
Second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, and then the last one, the chicken ordinance. I don't know, are we ready to really vote? It seems like we're still just like hammering it together.
I think there needs to be a little more discussion on the chickens. I think there's issues. I think personally, I think looking at for the whole city, size of the lot, I think is important. I know there were people here that said you could have them in a 2,000 square foot lot and have no issues and have 30 chickens. I struggle with that portion of it. I do think there needs to be that discussion. Is there a lot size limit? Is R1 too small? And you go look at these lots and you walk them, are they too small?
Well, I think about like Cherry Heights. I think that's
Cherry
probably too
Heights
small.
Is pretty small. I think people do have the right for their property, but I think part of your rights as a property owner is also being respectful to your neighbors.
Eliminating nuisance.
And I think there's opportunities, yeah, to have chickens, but there's also, you still need to have respect for those individuals around you and be able to control that. I think that's a big struggle for the planning commission to figure out what that is, along with the council. I think there was a lot of great ideas that came out, but I'm not sure we've heard all the ideas. I mean, I'm interested in how many people don't want chickens next to them and who hasn't come out and said anything. I think there's probably just as many people that don't want chickens, but they're not being vocal about it because they want to respect their neighbors. So I think it needs to be that two-way street. Like I said, I'll do whatever the planning commission wants. If they want to continue to work on this and talk about it and bring more things, I'll support that 100%. If they're ready to say, yeah, let's send it to the council and let them decide what they want to do, I'll gladly take the council and say, yeah, you guys, it's on you. But I do think there are things that do need to be a direction from our land use authority, which is the planning commission.
I do think there's a lower limit on the lot size. The R6 that we just passed, I believe that is
Out of the
really tight.
Yeah.
To have something like chickens on.
Yeah, so currently it calls out 8,000 square feet. Minimum square foot for the lot would be 8,000 square feet. The most recent one that was presented to us. My biggest concern is just enforcement. How are we gonna enforce this? You
And
know?
I really liked, after the meeting last week, Jeff brought up, what if it was tied to conditional use? And I think that, for me, that might be the easier answer. Again, that doesn't eliminate the enforcement issues, but it is a bigger tool in your belt, in my opinion. I really liked that proposal, that thought.
I still think even with the conditional use permit though, we still need to have rules in place.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so, once again, I think even if somebody comes in here on this R18 and they may not have the opportunity to get a conditional use permit because of the lot size. Do they have enough to get set back from the fence for the chicken coop? Do they have enough to keep away from their house? Do they have, I'll tell you that this has been a very interesting subject.
Yeah.
From both sides and looking at other communities. Other
even if they have ordinances. They're having the same struggles, what we're going through right now. And so we're not the only city going through this, but I think if we do it right, it can be a good thing for everybody in the city. Is where's that point?
I think generally, I mean, just looking at this right now, I think we're getting close. I made a suggestion that first we have just a clear call out at the start that this does not impact RS12, A1, whatever, the other ones that can have all sorts of farm animals and stuff. Just because that was the real crowd in April. Those are the people like, no way. Like we got an RS12, we got an A1 because that's what we want to do. I'd probably cap it above the 8,000. I think I would keep it to the R110, R112s. You know, the more I've thought about it, and I walk by Cherry Heights every time I walk my dog, and I just think that's tight. That's really tight. And those backyards butt up against the streets and against the sidewalks, and just a little bit different than in normal, like kind of some of your bigger sized lots. I think I'd get rid of the whole foul committee and swap the enforcement with the conditional use. And other than that, I thought, you know, there was some good stuff here, just, you know, getting rid of all the more annoying fowls, the ducks and geese and turkeys and peafowls, the crowing hens. I thought that was good. I like just kind of, I like having a rule that they have to have, you know, the fence run, the fenced backyard, some basic things, but not getting over the top and recommending how exactly that appears. So I'm pretty close on this, but those would be my recommendations: is the clarification, you know, eliminating R18 out of this. In fact, I'll do that with my edit right now. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at.
I think the reason it needs to be continued to look at is just what Justin said, is that enforcement is a challenge in the city. And it is in a lot of cities. Very few cities have an enforcement, a zoning enforcement arm. So I sit in meetings where the staff has criticized for not enforcing laws that are on the books now, and we add a bunch more regarding chickens, and you just made a bunch more laws that are not enforceable. And so I think that needs to be a real consideration. That's why I like the conditional use piece of it, is that you have a set of rules, and if you don't abide by these rules, we're going to pull your permit, you can get rid of all of them.
Right.
And so think about that from a simplification standpoint. How can we make this easily enforceable?
I like the idea as well. I think it holds them accountable. Some of the things I saw looking at other cities is that they required that conditional use permit every year, that residents would come in and apply for it every year, and basically they had to sign an affidavit saying that they understand the rules and that they'll, you know, honor those rules, which makes sense. I owned a 10,000 square foot lot with a 1,500 square foot house at one point in time. I would have been hard pressed to keep chickens on that lot. It would have been really tough. So I wouldn't be opposed to, you know, saying it's 10,000 square foot minimum. I think 8 would be really tight.
Yeah.
And especially for the neighbors. I just think if you're thinking about your neighbors, I think it was six hens, 6 chickens. That might be a lot of noise right up against the fence. So.
Nobody's living 1,200 square foot houses anymore.
No,
Yeah.
no.
They're filling the lots. So I think the 8,000 probably too small.
I'd almost think instead of trying to cobble together a vote based on what we have. I almost wonder if we can get a new draft based on some of those ideas. I mean, Brian, where are you at with some of the thoughts and terms that we've been discussing?
Brian wants chickens.
I'm somewhat indifferent. It's like, you could probably, the larger the lot, the better.
Right. So that'd be my thought and recommendation, maybe next month or our next meeting, whenever it is. If we could have, and if we can get it in a week or two advance, basically this same structure and a lot of the same stuff, but the call out, the limit at 10, so the R112, R110, and then get rid of the foul committee and then replacing that with the CUP type idea. I think that's generally what I would want to see and be ready to have a vote on it.
10 is still 0.23 acres. That's still pretty small.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of,
What's our R110 zones? I'm trying to, like, it's easy for me to imagine some of these, but what's our R110s? Like, where are we talking?
We got some around, like Cary Drive, that are rotating, Bear Canyon's rotating.
But one of the things about it is a lot of lots is bigger than 10,000.
good point.
So that's just the minimum, so.
Yeah, that's your minimum lot size in our own 10,000.
There could be acre lots.
Yeah, there could be an acre lot in that, but.
Maybe it's not the zone, it's more the lot size. Might be a good point.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
agreed.
Oh,
That's good. I didn't think of it that way.
Where the individual owner needs to have.
that makes a lot of sense.
So we have a lot of R110. That's more than I expected. We have a lot of R110. Yeah.
I personally thought it wasn't broke, so maybe we shouldn't be messing with it.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
I don't think it was broke.
I mean, there was people that wanted chickens that didn't live in the zone that thought they
And
should
they were
have.
very far and few between.
Yeah, so why are we reinventing the wheel? Why don't we just say, no, you can't have
That
chickens?
might be the best comment.
So,
I think Jeff has a preference.
so why don't we just shut it down and say, no, you can't have chickens. It's not like we're being inundated with requests for new chicken coops. There's probably like 2 of them. And then there's obviously a lot of great responsible chicken owners that were thinking their rights are going to be infringed on. Absolutely not.
I think most of the people that were here were probably in RS12 as is.
Yeah, that was, April was all the RS12s
Yeah.
thinking we were taken away and we weren't.
Yeah. So I was glad to see there's a lot of responsible chicken
I do
owners.
think there are some
Keep up the good work.
people with chickens on 10,000 square foot.
100%.
And I know the mayor brought that up. He has neighbors that want to be legal.
So currently, if tomorrow city gets a call from somebody and complains that their neighbor on a 10,000 square foot lot has 4 chickens, what's city staff gonna do about it?
So I'll tell you on the last, probably 4 complaints I've got, one was for a rooster. Their chicken coop is actually just right on the side of their house, on the garage side, which was really close to the neighbors. I wrote them a letter, and they're in RS12 zone. I wrote them a letter, their lot's barely a quarter acre. So they're at the very small end, and just said, hey, according to the size of your lot, you really shouldn't have chickens, you need to really roost. That's pretty much all I said. He was in my office the next day after getting the letter, and was like, you know, these are my best friends, and you're telling me I can give her my best friends. I said, no, I didn't tell you to give her your best friends. I had told you you had to give her your boyfriend. And so,
Well,
it just,
I like that. It's not, I don't really think it's the government's problem being everybody's business. If they're responsible owners and no one's complaining, we're a small city of 8,000 people. Okay.
So I just checked, and I didn't know the back nine neighborhood is R110. I did not know that. That surprises me. I thought it was a R112.
And we know there's a number of people over there that wanna have chickens, a few.
Right. So I guess
They
my.
can apply for a rezone.
So there was a resident at the end of the meeting last week that mentioned that they're aware of a city that just basically covers us under a nuisance ordinance.
Instead of even dealing
Instead of
with
even
the
dealing
chicken issue.
specifically with chickens, they just say, you can't be a nuisance, right? You can't have
Just noise or smell.
noise or smells coming from your property, like period.
Yeah, I don't know why we're changing it. Why don't they, if they're that passionate about it, they could apply for a rezone. Or, we could make it a CUP. It seems like, I don't think it's that broad.
I like the CUP, and I think even if we really just brought it down to that, my one thing about just leaving it as is you do have the rule keepers, and I consider myself among the rule keepers in the world. We're a sad, lonely bunch. But there are the people who, like, even though their neighbor is breaking the rule and they know they're never gonna get, they're like, it's against the rule, I'm not gonna do it. Those people deserve a break. But I like the CUP a lot. And I mean, R110, I do think R110 works. I mean, just thinking of the R110, I'm most familiar with, back nine is within my kind of neighborhood area. They would definitely be able to manage that size. But I don't know if all R110s are created equally, right? I don't know if they all are that same
And the CUP could live largely by
nuisance
the-
space.
the idea that you're not gonna create a nuisance.
And maybe that's what we
If you
build
create a
in more.
nuisance, you're not gonna have your CUP.
Yeah,
As
It
is,
could be the primary factor in the CUP. Is,
I like
there's only two things.
Nobody calls.
Don't have a bunch of noise going on and don't make it smell bad.
and don't bring in rats. So I mean, you know, I think
Well, that's impossible.
Well, I mean,
That's
to the extent, right? I have rodents in my backyard, but I also have a stream, so I can't really, unless I stop that stream uphill from me, they're coming in. But
I live on a half acre in Kaysville. And both of my backyard neighbors have chickens. One of them, you would be hard pressed to even know there was a chicken over there. Because he's just Johnny on the spot.
Yeah.
My whole backyard stinks because of my other neighbor. He's got a rooster, he's got chickens flying all over the place, they're in my yard every day.
really,
It stinks to high heaven. That's what neighbors get angry about. And so he should be out of the business. You can't do this.
and that's the thing. I do like the enforcement. The CUP, I think, is a good answer for that. I do think having the availability though is important, but I would cap it. I think R110 is as small as it gets, but I mean, I like what you're saying about it depends on the lot size, so maybe it's built more into, and I don't know how you would word that language, just so it's more.
You just say the lot size, right? Not the zone, but.
What would the lot size be though? What would we need as the minimum? I can't even.
Well, I think that can come back to, okay, your R110, if you're 10,000 square feet. Buy chickens. Whatever.
Yeah.
Limit chickens.
Limit the number.
Okay,
And then increases the lot size.
Got it.
That's how, well, currently it's called out 8,000 square feet minimum. And then for every additional 1,000 square feet, you can have one additional chicken
so then we just cap it at 10.
instead of 8.
Got it. Yeah, I like that. If you don't, if we can have our outside counsel or whoever whip that up, or I don't know, whoever does that.
I was talking about that.
Can I just go back to the foul committee? What if the foul committee is the one that reviewed these applications, the conditional use, rather than for us to review everyone in depth?
My only fear is that I think the foul committee ends up becoming staff in planning commission, because I think it'll be hard to get people who like are willing to volunteer for that separately. Like, in theory, I like the idea. Like, I think it was presented by some citizens saying, oh, we can educate people. And I like the idea of that.
My concern is it becomes opinions at that point though. And like, how one person says you should take care of chickens is not how another person
Right.
says you should take, and then it.
Comes like the HOA board
Yeah.
all over again.
Exactly, right?
Yeah, we don't want to get in that situation.
So, the conditional use permit be approved by the planning commission, so each time I have them come.
They have to come before us?
They have to come before the planning commission, or is this something that would
Run through you guys.
Here's
Here's
our,
the stuff.
here's our thing.
Jeff, give it to Jeff.
Jeff will reject.
It has to be- If it's conditional use, it has to come before this board.
Is there something else that would be similar, but staff could just, yep.
I mean,
There's not gonna be very many.
you could write what would be considered an administrative conditional use approval, that you guys approve the terms, and that could be done administratively as long as those terms were followed. And then there would always be the option to come in if there was some kind of extenuating circumstances. So that could be done, that
Well,
could be done that way.
I mean, I kind of like if they have to come before us, because that's gonna be someone who's like, not just thinking it up the day before and go, I'm gonna go IMF today, I'm gonna go buy that. Like, they have to like plan in advance, they have to come to this, they have to be subject to their neighbors saying, no way, I don't want it there. I kind of like that. Oh, 1 minute, okay, so that's my thought. I think we get a new draft, look it over and see if we can get it approved.
I like that. One other thing on that, the ones that are already okay in the 12,000 square foot zones,
Doesn't affect.
they don't have. to-
Yeah, we make that absolutely clear, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
they don't-
RS12, A1, all those guys are clean and good. Okay, so, I don't think we need a motion on that, we've kind of given our, thought on that, but, I will take a motion unless we have anything else to, wrap up and close our meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Any second? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. Look at that, nice and tidy.
Really sorry.
Oh, hey, this happens.
Brian said he wants a public